In this episode of the How to Get on Reality TV podcast, we talk about how to tie random parts of your character all together into one cohesive casting story. Welcome to the How to Get on Reality TV podcast with Dan Giesling, where I answer your reality TV casting questions once a week. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of How to Get on Reality TV podcast. My name's Dan Giesling, and you guys know, as always, I'm really excited to be here again to answer your reality TV casting questions, because you know what, it comes down to it seems like a lot of emails have been coming in lately, people thanking, people asking questions, but it's just cool to see a lot of people spending some focus and time and some thought instead of just kind of going out there and winging it. And I think the people that are able to take this information and to be a part of the podcast and, put their own twist on it, but to really just prepare themselves and put some thought into what they're doing, a lot of people are going to have success and at least put them in a better position than they would had they just turn on the camera and run with it. So we have a really interesting question this week from John. Before we get into that, I want to tell you guys about the complete step-by-step casting video boot camp course. Essentially what it is, if you're like, hey Dan, I want to sit in a classroom and have you teach me everything I need to know about getting cast on reality TV, everything from how to create my story to how do I shoot my video, what's in the background, how do I know what to say. If you wanted me to teach you in that sort of a class setting, you should check out the video course. You can check it out by going to howtogetonrealitytv.net/video. There are worksheets, there's class modules. It's all very easily segmented and it flows really good. And, I wish when I was applying, there was something like this available because it would have saved me a lot of time. Anyways, you can check that out by going to howtogetonrealitytv.net/video. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this week's question from John, which is all about taking random parts of your life that are all fairly interesting and trying to find a way to put it all together.
What is up, Dan the Man Giesling? John here. So this week I have a bit of a different question, but I think it's one that pertains to a lot of people trying to get cast on reality TV, and that is when you have a lot of unique characteristics or a lot of unique stories that don't necessarily relate to each other, how do you combine all those things into one audition tape? And so just to give you some specific examples about myself, I live in my car and I travel around the United States. I met my long-lost mother through reality TV. I've never had a soda in my life. I'm a Magic the Gathering state champion, and I'm a conservative. So when I'm making my audition tape, do I just sort of vomit all this stuff onto the casting producer, or do I pick and choose just a couple of these stories and run with that through casting at the risk of maybe sounding disingenuous or maybe leaving out some of the really awesome stories that I have in my life? Thanks, Dan. Bye.
First off, John, thank you so much for submitting your question. You have great energy, and it sounds like you have a really unique story right off the bat, but John's question is, he has all of these things going on, all these unique things, which I would agree with him. Everything he said was extremely unique. I can't imagine a lot of people are going to say those things in a casting audition video or through the casting process. So the question is, how do you tie them all together? And I'm going to give you a technique how to figure out how to do that, but the overarching thing you need to understand is that you don't really have to do that, meaning that you can find a common theme, but it's not like you have to become like the conservative teacher. Look at, for example, this season, of Big Brother US, you have a rock star dentist. Like, who would ever put those two things together? So it's not so much of like fitting into a box, but just mashing your stuff together so that people can identify you as something, even though it may not be normal. And in your case, one of the things that you said, you said a lot of things that were very unique. You said, hey, you live in your car. Okay, that's really unique. And that should be the central or one of the two central staples of your entire story, because a ton of questions are going to come from you from that. Why are you doing this? What inspired you to do this? Where do you go? What's the weirdest situation you've been in? What's it like not having a home? Where do you go to the bathroom? Where do you shower? These are all things people would want to know that you're going to be able to talk about and probably tell some funny stories about. You also had mentioned that you met your mom on TV, you don't drink pop, and you're a Magic the Gathering state champion, which, by the way, is awesome. I have a Black Lotus that probably means something to you and I, John, but I found it in a treasure chest. Anyways, let me get back to the thing. If you know Magic the Gathering. Anyways, two worlds are colliding. So here's how you figure out what to do with these unique things. You have to first off divide them into Is it a cool story, or is it a cool characteristic? Meaning, is this part of who I am, or is this something cool I experienced and it's just kind of a cool story? So the first thing you want to do is identify what's most identifiable. I know that sounds kind of backwards, but what are people going to identify with the most, or at least remember and identify you as? So, for example, when you go through casting, you're going to be the guy that lives in his car. There's no other way around that. And that's good that you can be labeled as that. So you want to be able to identify what's most identifiable, which you've already done that. Okay, so everything you've said is very unique. So you did a great job doing that. The second thing you want to do is figure out, okay, you have to ask yourself, okay, so I haven't drank soda ever in my life. Okay, you have to ask yourself one or two questions. Is that a cool story, or is that part of who you are? And in that case, it's just a cool story. It's a cool story, I'm sure, why you stopped or why you never drank in the first place. If there's some story, that's a cool story, but it's not part of your characteristic. You're not going to be John, the guy who lives in his car and doesn't drink soda. Okay, so the next thing you mentioned is that you met your mom on TV. Okay, is that part of who you are, or is that a cool story? That's a cool story or unique story. You're not going to be John, the guy who lives in the car and met his mom on TV. However, the last one you said, you mentioned you're a Magic the Gathering state champion. Is that a cool story? Yes. Can it also be part of who you are? Yes. You're the guy who lives in his car and also, is a champion at a card game that most people identify as like a Pokemon card game, or a trading card champion, or a trading card game champion. You're going to be, that's part of who you are as a story. It's beyond who you are as a character. It's beyond just a cool story. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that you can derive from that, how you won a state championship in that, I'm guessing you won your state and then moved on to the Grand Prix. But, the mental capacity that takes, how to beat your opponents. There's a lot of things you can draw out of the fact that you're, this trading card champion, trading card game champion, competitive card game champion, that you can apply that would translate to a competitive reality show. So, John, I hope this helps. Remember if you guys have a list of your weird things and you want to go through this process at home, first ask yourself, first you have to identify what's most identifiable that people are going to remember about you. After you do that, you need to ask yourself, is this a cool story, or is this part of a character that I can use and draw many different things from and refer back to? So someone may say, hey, in casting, tell me about the worst situation you've been in. Well, hey, that reminds me of a time when I was down 12-1 in, playing for $5,000 in this card game, and I got this read from my opponent. And every time he was about to make a big play, he grabbed an Oreo, opened it, and looked at it. And if the white frosting was evenly divided, then I knew he wasn't going to make the move. If it all ended up on one side, that he was going to make the move. So you get the point. If it's something you can continue to draw from like a well, then that's part of your character. If it's just a one-off story you can tell, make sure you find a way to tell that, but don't make that a major part of your central character, if that makes sense. But John, I think you did an excellent job of identifying the weirdest things and most unique things about yourself. So A+ for that, man. I think now it's just a matter of you weaving those stories in, but understanding they're not part of your central theme. But John, thank you so much for asking the question. As a small thank you, we're going to send you a free digital copy of my story, How a Normal Guy Got Cast on Reality TV. And if you want your question answered on the podcast, you can submit it by going to howtogetonrealitytv.net/ask. You can use your cell phone, tablet. You can go on the browser. It's really easy. You hit a button, you record, and send it off. But John, thank you so much, and best of luck in your casting journey. So that wraps up another episode of the How to Get on Reality TV podcast. I'm not going to lie, I may have picked that question because he mentioned Magic the Gathering. But no, I picked it because it was super, super unique, and he did a great job explaining exactly what he needed help with. You guys, I would encourage you guys to submit a question. It's John just helped John by asking that question, but I'm sure there's a lot of other people that you're going to be able to help as well, just by whatever you're thinking. Chances are someone else is thinking as well. So don't be afraid to submit a question. If you want to use a different name because you're worried about the anonymity and you don't want, use a different name, that's cool, but just ask your legit question, use your real story, because that's really helpful. But like I said earlier, if you want to if you want me to teach you how to get cast on reality TV, like in a classroom, similar to a classroom setting where you get worksheets, and you want a teacher that knows what they're talking about in terms of how to get on reality TV, I encourage you guys to check out my video course at howtogetonrealitytv.net/video. It will help you. It's helped a lot of people. It's really easy. It's really guided. You can knock it out in a weekend, and it will help you get prepared to put together the best audition video that you possibly can. So like I said, you can check that out by going to howtogetonrealitytv.net/video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I hope this helps. And, thank you for all the continued support and messages. And thank you guys for listening to the podcast. It's, the past month, it was record numbers, and it's cool. It's cool to see the community grow. It's cool to see people helping each other. It's cool to I'm starting to get emails from people saying, hey, here's a video of me on the show that I was on it, and there's people that are on shows I've never even heard of, but it's cool to see that people are putting this in motion and taking action and making it happen. But thank you guys for watching or listening, and I'll see you guys next Monday. Later.